Welcome to Earn It Dynasty Sports Network Radio Podcast. Okay, welcome to the Earn It Dynasty Sports Network Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Will Anders. We head into Week 10 this week, as this podcast, of course, is recorded before the Kansas State-Nebraska game, so we will not have any information on that game. But we move ahead, though, into Week 10, and we got some key top 25 matchups, starting off again with Nebraska and Oklahoma. Nebraska, they're one of the top teams in the nation. Rushing and total offense, points per game is phenomenal, and their defense, their rush defense, best in the nation. Total defense, best in the nation. Pass defense, it's not there yet, but I think it'll be there after this Kansas State game. And then you have Oklahoma on the other hand, a good team. I don't think they're all that this year. Oklahoma did lose to Alabama this year, 52-7. So I mean, you gotta say, is this Oklahoma team for real? They're gonna have a major test this week against a key Nebraska team. So it's a great rivalry game. Glad it's here, but Nebraska should be on top of this one at Oklahoma. We move on to South Carolina and Georgia Tech. South Carolina 0-7. That's just not good. And they're taking on a top 15 team, Georgia Tech. South Carolina is the worst team in the country. There's no getting around it. Their rush offense is at 19 yards a game. They give up 405 yards a game on defense. It's just staggering numbers that say, how is this team coached by Dick Almighty? You're wondering, this coach coached a national championship at Oklahoma, and now he's struggling at South Carolina. I mean, he got beat 70-21 to Virginia, and it's just gone downhill from then. He did have a close game against UConn 2 weeks ago, but they still lost by 3 at home. So I mean, you cannot say that. It's just a mess in Columbia. Boise State and Oregon, Cody has the team right where they need to be. Even though with 2 losses, they're still in a BCS hunt. I got Oregon in a BCS game. They're gonna play UCL. They're gonna play USC in the Pac-12 championship game. Get ready. That's gonna be a showdown. My guess, USC does win, but Oregon will give them another fight. USC takes on Arizona State this week. USC 6-1, number 6 in the nation. They're a dark horse for the national championship this year, folks. Their defense is one of the top in the nation. Not pass defense, rush defense, and total defense. I mean, the only loss is to Kansas State, 28-3. But they've blown out almost every team, including last week, Arizona. Arizona State, of course, lost to Washington 34-7, and they lost to Vanderbilt, a 3-5 team, 38-28. So, USC wins that game. Again, not going to put any speculation in it, but USC, I'm kind of marking them down for a possible title run. Air Force and Auburn stumbled. This is a key non-conference game. You got one of the best defenses in Air Force Academy going against a very good Auburn team. It should be a good matchup. Air Force only lost was to Navy, 34-13. They beat North Texas, San Jose, Utah State, and Nevada, while Auburn lost to Tulane. Sink that in. Air Force, 2024 Mountain Western Conference champions. But Auburn has not won a conference championship since 2020. It's just... We move on to Kansas State and Missouri. this can be a tightly matched game, I think. Missouri 4-2. Kansas State. We cannot tell you the record because, again, the Nebraska game has not been played yet. But looking at Missouri's schedule, they lost to Oklahoma 49-35. They lost to Maryland 34-28 in overtime. So I mean, this is not a bad team. They beat a top 25 team in Penn State, but they also beat Colorado State in overtime. The real test would be last week against Kansas. We don't have a score on that one, but we hope to get one. Kansas State must bring their A game. They're going to be roughed up after this Nebraska game, I think, and you got to go on the road now. It's going to be tough. My guess would be that Kansas State pulls it out, but in a very close one. They're going to be roughed up. But Missouri is also going to be roughed up playing Kansas. If Missouri does come out with a win in this game, it's because Kansas State does not play the defense that they are known to play. Kansas State has the best defense in the country. The best. Just saying. You cannot count this Missouri team out, though. LSU, Alabama, a key rivalry game. LSU 2-4 this year. Alabama, of course, remains undefeated. The best team offensively and nearly the best team defensively in the country. LSU with key losses to Georgia, Georgia State, Mississippi State, and Florida. Their only wins to South Alabama and Vanderbilt. While Bama has easily cruised with wins over Georgia, Florida, Notre Dame, BYU, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and UCLA. LSU has not won a national championship nor a conference championship since 2014. It's been a long time. While Alabama has not won a national championship since 2022. They haven't even won a conference championship. Well, they won it last year, actually. But yeah, Alabama wins big time in that game. We move into some non-conference action. We start off with Navy and Connecticut. Connecticut, best season in a very long time. They have one of the best rushing attacks, I think, in the country. But then again, Navy has the fourth best rushing attack in the country. And Navy's defense ain't a slouch. 11th best in the nation. I mean, Navy's going to bring their A game. They lost to Penn State 31-0. They lost to Western Kentucky 21-13. But they beat Boston College, Rutgers, Air Force, and Army. So, I mean, this team's not a slouch. But UConn, 2 losses to Stanford and number 4 Nebraska. But they beat UMass, New Mexico State, Duke, Kentucky, and South Carolina. If they win out against Navy, Tulsa, Louisiana Tech, and Middle Tennessee State, UConn will have the best team in school history. Flat out. Colorado and BYU, again, new user in P-Town, lost to Nebraska 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, can't really say much about him yet because we don't know much about his style of offense or defense, the matter for that. But BYU hasn't won a conference championship since 2007 and a national championship since 1984. They're due a couple of years. I think they'll get one. Colorado, last conference championship 2016. These are 2 struggling programs. Next up, we got 0-6 Arizona against a Stanford team that's just, they don't even want to talk about. They're just not good. Their offensive numbers might be there, but their record's not there. They're 4-4. They're not good. I mean, you can say whatever you want. Stanford's going to lose to USC. They're going to lose, I would possibly say, to Cal. if they lose 3 games, if they have 4 games remaining, if they lose 3, no bowl. I'm saying it now. Stanford's not going to a bowl game this year. That there's just offense coordinator over there with little Chris. He's not with it. He's not with the program. It's a mess. It's a mess, and something's got to be done at Stanford. They need a coaching change, and they need it now. David Shaw needs to get in that front office and say, our offense is working, but we're not winning games. It's not going to happen. Stanford's going to continue to struggle, and they're continuing to not win any championships because they don't have the staff. We move on to Sun Belt action with Rice and Georgia State. Rice 5-0 in Sun Belt, 5-2 overall, playing a very solid Georgia State team. Rice, one of the best rushing attacks in the nation, but they have also they have the 3rd best defense in the country, 6th best rushing defense. Yeah. 2 losses to Texas by 2 points and UCF by a lot. And Georgia State, their only loss was to Purdue. So, I mean, I got Rice in this one. They're going to win the conference back-to-back years. Let's start off with some Wednesday night action in the Sun Belt. UL Monroe takes on South Alabama. 0-5 Monroe will win this week. Count you on that. Thursday night action, we got Maction, packed day. Starting out with Marshall and Ball State. Ball State clearly wins. They're going to win the conference this year. No question about it. They're 4-2, 4-0 conference. Toledo, Central Michigan, 2 of the better teams in the MAC. I think Toledo does come out on top in a hair. Washington takes on Florida in a key non-conference game. We got 14 Washington, number 11 Florida. Should be one heck of a matchup on ESPN Saturday night, as 2 of the top offenses go against 2 of the weaker defenses in the country. Should be a great matchup. We got also a rivalry game between Michigan and Michigan State. Again, Michigan undefeated this year. Watch out for them. Penn State enters the top 25. They're 5-1 this year. Texas A&M takes on Texas Tech in a big rivalry game. There's Texas A&M 5-1 on the year. Texas Tech 1-5. We got another rivalry game with Vanderbilt and Ole Miss. Ole Miss should win handily. Texas and Texas State. Bobcats 2-0 in conference. Pretty darn good if you ask me. Can Fresno State finally get a win this year against UCLA? No. Ain't gonna happen. Wisconsin wins handily over Northwestern. Iowa will beat Purdue in a rivalry game. So, those are the facts on the matter are complete. My bottom 10 this week would have to be UL Monroe, Charlotte, Arkansas State, South Carolina, Buffalo, Arizona, Utah State, Fresno State, Duke, West Virginia, and Miami of Ohio. My top 10 this week, starting with number 10, it's going to be Oregon. Then I'm going to put Oklahoma, Iowa, Michigan, USC, Texas, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Kansas State, and of course, number 1, Alabama. That's it for Earn It Dynasty Sports Network Radio Podcast. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week with another podcast for you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later on Earn It Dynasty Sports Network.